What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I started collecting video games and and the history of me playing video games. So yeah, let's get into it. So early on, I watched my brother and my sister play video games on our PS2, and I was pretty young, so I didn't really play much, but I always do remember watching them play video games, and eventually, whenever I got old enough, I started playing video games also, and it's probably one of the best decisions I made because of how many games I have now and how video games one of my favorite hobbies, so it's great. And eventually my brother started collecting. I don't really remember exactly when he started collecting, but I think it was around high school he started, and I would always go with him to the flea market or to the Goodwill or whatever, and we would go game hunting and stuff, and I really liked it. But back then, I didn't have any money, or really much money, so I couldn't really collect with him. But it was great having him collect because we always had so many games to play, no matter what. I mean, this shelf behind me was filled from top to bottom of games, and so any system I wanted to play, Wii, DS, PS4, I mean, we had all types of genres, all types of games, and I loved that because I could just play whatever I wanted, and I could just borrow it because he was my brother. And still to this day, he still collects and I collect, so if he buys a game that I really want to play, I can just borrow it from him and then play it. And I did that with games like Ghost of Tsushima, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I have it right now, but when I first played it and platinumed it, it was, it's his game, so that's great to have. And I started collecting back in March of 2020, I think. Or wait, no, it'd been March of 2021, I believe. And there's these YouTubers, or YouTuber goes by the Game Chasers, and basically they have a whole series kind of like American Pickers, if any of you guys have watched that, where they go and look for video games, and it's like an actual show. And I've been watching them since I was in 5th grade, but I started watching them again because they're in my rotation of movies to watch or TV shows to watch, and I started watching them again, and I just really wanted to start collecting. I was watching them, and I told my brother this, and he's like, well, yeah, do it, but then you should make a YouTube channel. So that's how this YouTube channel started, because he just said, well, you can make it talking about pickups and do reviews of games and stuff. And I'm glad we did, because making videos is really fun. But back to how I got into collecting and where I went. So when I first started collecting, I still remember the first buy I ever got. I got 2 NES games and a Wii game at this pawn shop, and going and looking for games and game hunting it's just so fun. It's something that going back to the YouTubers or the Game Chasers, they call the thrill of the hunt, where you're going and you're trying to find games in the wild and stuff, and it's really, really fun going to pawn shops or Goodwills or thrift stores, whatever it might be. So back when I first started collecting, I didn't really have too much money, so I really focused on trying to get as many games as cheaply as possible. So going to pawn shops is the best way for me to do that, and I still do it now because the pawn shops in our area are actually pretty good. They have good deals all around, and some one pawn shop has really good deals, but sometimes the stock can be pretty low, and others there's another where the stock is pretty good but the prices aren't as good. But I think pawn shops is like a really good way to go look for games. Now, every pawn shop's going to be different. Not every pawn shop's going to have games, but the ones we go to have a ton of them, and they have usually, the newer games. They have like PS4, Switch, Xbox. That's why like PS4 and then like the 360 back here are like the part of the collection that I have the most in, because those pawn shops only have PS4 and Xbox and Xbox 360, and they go for pretty cheap. Now, the reason I like collecting is just because I like having a lot of games at my disposal to play, to have all different types of genres, whatever I'm feeling. And it's great, especially, going to pawn shops, is you can get them cheap. So you can find really, really good games for cheap and not have to worry about spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars just for 3 games or whatever. So that's one thing that I like. But something that's kind of weird about it is that when you get so many games, I think I'm almost at 300 now. When you get so many games, you start to, how do I explain this? It's like there's too many games to pick, right? It's like, well, I don't know a game to play, even though I have 300 games behind me. I have digital games that I can play, and you don't know what to pick because there's so many choices, and it gets to the point where you start playing a game, and then you buy a new game, and you're like, ooh, I want to play that game, and then you get a new game, and you just go down that cycle that you just don't complete games. And for someone like me, when I play a game, especially a campaign or story-driven game, or a single-player game, I want to beat it. I don't want to just play it for a little while. I want to beat it, and that's just the type of gamer I am. But it is tough to keep on trying to play a game whenever you get a new game and then you get a new game. So that's one of the bad things about collecting. And I guess another thing is some people will say it's a waste of money. I don't think so. If it makes you happy, I don't think it's a waste of money at all. And collecting games and be able to have all of these games to play makes me happy a lot. So if you're a collector, or you're just not even a collector of video games, but if someone says, well, why are you wasting all that money? If you're happy doing it, don't let anyone else bring you down for it. Because especially my sister doesn't like I guess me collecting video games, or doesn't see the fun in it. Because we'll go to thrift stores, or we recently went to what are they called, garage sales, and I bought a couple PS1 games, and she's like, oh, are you gonna play them, or are you just gonna sit on the shelf? And I'm like, doesn't matter. If it sits on the shelf, okay, cool, it's my money. I still, there's a lot of games here that I'm never gonna play. I'm gonna be honest with you. Either they're games that I just got for $1, or they came in a deal where I got 20 games and they just came with it. I'm not gonna play it, but it's still cool to have. It's preserving a part of history, kinda, especially with the older games. Games I picked up a Super Famicom and a Famicom game. I'm never gonna play it because I don't have those consoles, but it's still cool to have that history and have it on my shelf and displayed. So yeah, that's why I like collecting as part of that. It just looks nice, all my games on a shelf, you know what I mean? And honestly, when it comes down to money, if you're good enough with haggling and doing stuff like that, you can get games for cheap. Like I said earlier, going to pawn shops, going to thrift stores. And I think people may believe game collectors spend hundreds of and thousands of dollars each week or whatever. And it's no. When it comes to buying games for me, it just depends on when I want to spend my money. Because right now, I'm not really trying to spend money. But, say when I get paid next, I'll go to a pawn shop and see what they have. And, ooh, that looks cool, I'll buy it. And, yeah, there is probably some collectors out there who spend hundreds of dollars each day, $1,000 each week buying video games. But to me, it's not like that. I try to get games for cheap, and if it's not going to be cheap enough, even if the games I want, I'm just going to put it back because I don't want to spend that much money. You guys in the next video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.